Today, on Different Facets of Happiness, we're joined by Teresa Barry, an intuitive guide and runes caster. Teresa helps people find clarity, reconnect with their intuitive power, and gain insights using Norse Celtic runes and oracle cards. Her work empowers individuals to unlock the intuitive abilities that we all have, offering deep spiritual guidance and transformation. Teresa Barry, up next. Teresa Barry, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am very, very good, Jackie. And thank you so much for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. We're so excited to have you. So, you are an intuitive communicator and coach. You help people reconnect with their inner guidance and spiritual strength using Norse Celtic runes and oracle cards and your intuitive insights. You empower your clients to rediscover their path to clarity and happiness. You believe that everyone has intuitive abilities, and you work to help others unlock these gifts, enhancing their journey to fulfillment. And you also communicate with animals, and we'll get to that soon. Very excited. So, again, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
My first question to you is, how did you first discover your abilities as a psychic medium and intuitive communicator?
Well, I grew up in an Irish family and Canadian Irish. So one of my cousins has said we're all a wee bit close to the veil, as the Irish say. And when I was a child, I would sit in the kitchen with my mom and I would change the timeline back and forth. I would zoom up time so that she would do everything really quickly. And then I would stop it and bring her back to that moment and I would play. And it wasn't until I got into school, and it was a school run by a convent, that I realized, oh, this perhaps is not something that I should be doing. And I closed it down. And then I became a nurse, as you probably know. And being open wasn't a good idea in that role. And so I really shut the door. I mean, you can imagine working in an ICU and there's all sorts of energies there. Yeah, no. So I slammed the door, locked it shut, put in the bolt, and turned away from it. But when my daughter was about 10, she started seeing things in the house and was frightened. She is a classically trained vocalist. And even at that age, she would be going down to practice her breath work and her scales, etc. And we had a little studio for her in the basement in the rec room. And she got really frightened. And so I thought, I can't hide it anymore. I got to open it up, protect my child. So that's what I did. I started by going through Reiki training and moved from there.
I see. Okay. Well, can you explain the difference between being an intuitive communicator and a psychic medium?
Okay. People, and that's a great question, Jackie, because people have a tendency to throw all sorts of terms, but there is a separation of terms. Intuitive is a broad term that talks about being able to link into energies that we cannot see. And everything has energy, from the rocks in your garden to the trees on your boulevard and your plants, your animals, the water, all the elements, everything has energy. So an intuitive can link into those energies wherever she or he needs to and or would like to. A communicator is just somebody who speaks about the energy versus just watches it, etc. They communicate what that energy is saying or doing, experiencing, etc. And it could be the energy of land, a house, a person, an animal, whatever. Now, psychic medium. Psychics are different from mediums. You can be both, but they're different. Psychic is, in its truest term, my understanding, this is all based on my understanding, my readings, that a psychic is somebody who links into the energy of the person sitting in front of them. And whether it is their guides, whether it is other lives that they've had, whether it is their inner spirit, their higher self, the rest of their soul, whatever, that's what the psychic is doing. A medium, in its truest sense, is somebody who is talking to those who have already passed.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, what is the process then that you use for connecting with spirits or spirit guides or animals?
Okay, I have what I call my inner sacred space. I have several of them,
Mhm.
depending on what pops up per person. And it is like if you do journeying, if you've ever heard of anybody who does journeying, they often find their sacred spaces, particularly when they go into the lower world, they can find a space. We're in the middle world, and so, or you can go into the higher world and speak to guides. So what I do in this inner space, and my favorite one that I'm using right now is by a river. All right. And depending on how the person is and their energy, it shows me how tumultuous or how calm the river is. And so I will go to the river's edge and I will ask guides or that person. Usually it's the person. I ask them to come forward too. And then we all just connect. It becomes quite automatic. It's not an effort. The only thing that in my practice that I use a very specific path for is Akashic Records.
We'll talk about that soon. I can hardly wait to talk about that. So, are there certain types of energies or spirits that you find easier or more challenging to connect with?
The second part is easier to answer than the first part. So, people who are easy to connect with are very often other intuitives, whether they know they're intuitives or not.
Oh,
All right. So, very often these people are using their intuition every day, but they're not aware of it. They're not doing it with intention, which can be a little bit scary. And I suggest various things to those people. People who are difficult to connect with are usually those who have energies attached to them that are very low frequency and or they have closed themselves up to anyone to the point where you'd need a battering ram to get into them. Those people are difficult. People who are scary, I've had a couple, are those that embrace those lower energy in
so
various ways.
so lower energies meaning negative energies?
Yeah, I try not to use the word because there's such in the human world, such associations with negative, because we do need the darkness as we do need the light. We all are born out of darkness, right? Where the uterus is completely dark. So there is use for it. And I'm not saying that in darkness, there is only lower frequency energies. I want to be very clear about that. Lower frequency energies are individuals who are not embracing more of the divine part of ourselves, the part of light and love. And those that embrace that are looking for a different connection than what I offer. I have a family, I have, people that I love dearly, and I am not going to work with those very much. I will stay away. My guide team will say, nope, not that person. Okay.
Right. So after you make a connection, how do you ensure the accuracy of the messages you receive during?
Yeah. I have to trust myself and my guide team. And it's hard. I've been doing this for years and years. And when a client message back to me or sends me an email and says, OMG, you were so spot on, I go, whew, thank goodness, because some of the things I say are just like, they don't make any sense to me. And I'm worried if they're making any sense to that person. So I just have to trust.
Yes.
And my guides always afterwards say, good job, good job. Yep, that was exactly. And sometimes there's things I don't want to say. And they say, you have to say that.
Okay. So have your abilities evolved over time? And if so, how?
Yeah, they definitely have evolved. I started by learning Reiki, which I thought I'm a nurse.
Yeah.
It's healing. It made sense to me. But reopening my inner ears, my inner self to hearing messages and that sort of thing was a journey. I did several sacred site tours. For animal communication alone, I did 3 solid years of training. So it's a matter of coursework. It's a matter of exercise. It's like any other muscles. It's like any other ability.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you now about Akashic Records. And this is very, very interesting to me. As you know, you read, I did my Akashic Records reading. That's the first time I actually heard about Akashic Records reading. And that was a wonderful experience for me. So for our listeners that don't know what that is, can you please explain what is Akashic Records and what is a reading all about, please?
So we are not here by accident. We are here by divine and perfect choice. Our choice and the energy that some people call God, creator, source, the universe, all of this sort of thing. We always have been, we always will be. We are eternal. And when we go into a life, that life is not just by accident, it's recorded. Everything that we've done is recorded. Yikes. But everything that we've done. And so in a Akashic record reading, what the reader is doing is, with special permission, is knocking on the door of that person's personal library. Usually, when I do an Akashic record reading, I am greeted by that person's guide or librarian, and they will direct me to a very specific space in that person's library. And everybody's library looks different. I've been enthralled by people's library, but I can't go willy-nilly through their library. That person who's asked for the reading is asking for a very specific thing. They might not even know it, but their librarian does, their inner self does, their higher self does. And so through that, I go in and they present me to a table, a viewer, a pile of books, a platform, whatever, and it will open up or start up and show me the images of what this person is asking about. So, somebody will say, why do I eat so much? Right. And then they will most likely, this is very common, show me lives of abject poverty, war-torn strife, scarcity. All of our lives are ongoing at the same time. It's a weird thing to think about. There is no linear time, right? This is an artificial construct for us to live our lives. So if my life in the 1800s is going on now, then what they're going to show me is active now.
So what type of situations or questions do clients typically bring to you?
For Akashic Records? Usually it's things that they either have not been able to achieve or understand in this life, whether it is, why don't I have a partner? Why don't I have children? Why don't I have money? Why do I have terrible illness? It's all of these things. And what I am trying to do when I look at Akashic Records is find the reason for that and to help them understand so that perhaps through work, they can let go of it. It's hard. It can be done.
And it sounds like typically after Akashic Records reading, well, I shouldn't say typically, but some people they understand why they are the way that they are, but it can be a life-altering event as well.
Yes, yeah, because once we acknowledge something, there's a good chance we can be free of it. Kind of go, oh, that's why. Okay, I can let that go.
Exactly. So can you share a memorable experience where your communication with a spirit or even an animal had a significant impact on your client?
I have very meaningful human interactions, but really the ones that bring a lot of joy and tears are the animal ones. I was at a barn. This was early. I was just finishing my master courses for animal communication. So this is a while ago. I was much slimmer. And there's something I have to work on. But I was at a barn and this stable owner, and she had lovely horses and they were all rescues, had a horse. They had just redone the arena. And the connection between the stables and the arena was they had used rubberized plating and it was really thick rubber. so that it would be really comfortable, particularly in the winter, for the horses to walk from one area to another. Well, this one lovely older horse would not. She would not cross that flooring. And so we talked about it. It turned out she had been injured in bog in another life, and anything that's soft frightened her. So they made a different level. They put some, I don't know, plywood or something, and she was able to walk on that. So she still had the sponginess, but she felt more secure. But the thing is that I'm standing there and my teacher is there with me because she was a friend and she thought Teresa's the one that needs to talk to my friend. And I said, who is the young girl that is hiding in the corner of the stable? And I described that girl to the woman, and it turned out to be her daughter after she had been assaulted. She had left, they had found her in the stable.
Oh.
I'm going to cry. And back that up, guys. Back it up. So, anyways, sorry.
It's okay.
So, anyways, it was really meaningful. And my teacher, who was such a good friend of this woman, said, we will go rescue her. And that's what they did. So that really taught me, one, I'm on the right path. And two, maybe I should look after people too.
Yeah, definitely, Teresa.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. How do you handle skeptical client? And what do you say to those who doubt your abilities?
Well, you go from being a master's degree nurse in management education to being a psychic. You have a lot of people who are skeptical. I just say, you can be skeptical. It's not going to change my path. And I say, I wish them well and let them go. I've had some people who the information that they started getting in a reading was perhaps too close for comfort. And so then they have to say, no, I can't do this. And then they walk away.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that's fine. You'll get it when you need it, or you're open to it.
That's right. So going back to the animals again for a second, what is your most common message that you receive from animals during your session? And how does that actually, I know it's through, I guess, telepathy, but how do you receive it?
I will be looking at them if they are still incarnated. And honestly, Jackie, they just start talking. They just energetically, they come closer and I thank them. I'm always in a place of gratitude and honor. And I always tell them first, if there's something that you do not want me to say, but you want me to know, you want to be able to vent that and release it, that's fine. You just tell me and I will not tell your person, your family. Things that I usually get from family members, I don't like to use the O word, owner, is that they're worried about something. They're worried about health. They're worried about behavior.
The family member would be worried about the animal?
The animal's behavior, health. If they pass, they want to know that they're okay. So that's very, very common. And most often with animals, I like to be there if I can be, because I want to feel the energy more of their environment, because animals are very earth-based, even though they're celestial energies, they're really earth-based. And so I want to have that experience and link in with them that way. If they've already passed it, it doesn't really matter.
Right. That's true. So can you help with behavioral issues in pets, or is your work more focused on emotional and spiritual matters?
First off, and this is what I learned in my training, is animals are animals, just like humans are humans. And just like you can say to your child, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. And they're going to do it anyways. If we have an animal who has been traumatized and they're unable to release that trauma, then they're going to continue to behave the way they behave. My little dog, who's sitting beside me right now, she was 2 years on the street. Her first 2 years of her life were on the street. And so she's very reactive. She's 11 years old and she's still super reactive, despite me having trainers come in, despite me talking. Sometimes you cannot change. But what you can do is listen. You can explain it to the animal's family. And you can say, these are the sort of things that you can decrease that exposure or that happening, occurring, etc. This is what they need. Maybe they need a better blanket. Maybe they need a different stall. Maybe they need the ghost that's in the barn removed. Maybe they need to talk to the tree that's way out in the field. Cows are famous for wanting to talk to trees.
Really?
So you can, yeah, they're lovely people, by the way. Anyways.
Cows are lovely, or?
Oh, they are. They're lovely. Considering we take their children all the time. They're lovely.
Do animals and spirit communicate differently than those who are still living?
No, exactly the same. Sometimes I will think I'm talking to someone who is supposed to be in spirit, but it turns out it's their brother or sister, their litter mate, who's also in the house. Sometimes you can't tell, but mostly I can. But they communicate very, very similarly.
Goodness. So what has been the most rewarding aspect of your work as a psychic medium and animal communicator?
That is such a big question. I think it's very similar to my years as a nurse. It is being of service and the joy of being trusted enough to be able to help someone. And I'm sure you feel that way. All of us are of service. And when we see that we've helped someone, that makes a big difference in our own lives.
Absolutely. I completely agree. How do you protect your energy then and well-being while working with so many different energies?
Well, when I used to work out of an office and then the building was sold and I thought, okay, well, I'll just work from my home. But I realized I didn't want all of those energies just popping in. And so what I did was I created an intention for my practice. I said, only people who are like-minded can find me and will work with me. I didn't want spiritual tourists. I did not want spiritual masqueraders.
Because spirits travel from place to place. If they have a connection with you, they like you for whatever reason, they will move with you from your office to your home or
That's
to...
right. And my home had people that I loved in there. So I did not want that energy coming in. And so even though I have moved a couple of times since that point, I hold that same intention. Now, sometimes when I'm having to go out and do a house clearing, I can't control the energies. I can't choose the energies. And so there's been a few times that's been tougher. And so I do cleanse myself. I have chimes by my door. So that the sound, I do a sound clearing. Between clients, I do a small clearing and ask my guides to sweep energy away and return it to the person in light and love.
Okay, very interesting. So how do you balance your professional work with your personal life, given the intensity of the energies that you deal with?
Actually, I'm very, very good at turning it off, like I was as a child, and then like I was when I started nursing. So if I'm out in a restaurant or, at a market, like it's very common this time of year, or at a party or a barbecue, I don't go in open. And I have my guides automatically, I don't have to think about it, automatically are around me.
Because when you go into a party or any type of opening, there are always spirits around that you can see, feel.
If I wanted to.
Okay.
So if I am at an event or something and I'm recognized or whatever, and someone will come up, Teresa, I just need to ask you. I'm so sorry. I just need to ask. I'll open the door a little bit. If it's appropriate, I don't always say yes. Very often I say no. And I'll look around and I'll say, this is what you need to know right now. And then I close it back up again. And I also, when I open that door, so to speak, and it's like a door actually, I push any energy that might have gone in, I push it right back out again. You'll see me go like this, and that's me pushing energy away. And we all should do that. We're all intuitive, and we all pick up garbage.
True. Very true, honestly. So, Teresa, as someone who helps others tap into their inner guidance, how do you believe intuition plays a role in finding true happiness?
Well, 20 years in peds and then 20 years in fertility care. And 9 of those years was working with women. And I often talked about the need for joy in our lives. And that was when I really started to see that joy was the most important thing. It's a very high frequency form of love. When we enjoy something, we are in joy, we are in bliss. And so it again is part of my intentional use of energy that I help that person find in our discussion, because my readings are discussions. You can stop me anytime and say, what about? Because I'm just the conduit. Maybe I'm the translator, but it's their discussion. And so I will always ask Spirit, find something that helps them link back to their inner joy, which is our natural state as spirits, and help them move from there. Did you find that in the reading that you and I worked on?
Oh, yes, completely. Again, coming from the corporate world, I wouldn't say I was skeptical. I was intrigued. And I really wanted to understand my path. And again, why I do certain things. And it was explainable. It was credible. It was a wonderful experience for me. I don't think I'll ever forget it. We recorded the session and I have listened to it. I can't tell you how many times per week.
Oh,
Yes. And again, I said, aha, now I understand it. It makes sense. It was a wonderful experience. I encourage everyone, all my listeners, to do it if you have an opportunity. But it was a fantastic experience for me. And thank you very much for that. Changed a lot.
well.
Yes.
But you see then that idea of linking back into joy, how that can shift our energy.
Yes.
I know how important that is for me. So I'd like my clients to have the same experience.
Of course, exactly. Teresa Barry, thank you very much for coming on the show. It has been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure for me.
How can people reach you?
Well, they can reach me through my website, which is teresabintuitive.com. I'm also with the same title on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I don't. And that's a great way just to get a hold of me, and we go from there.
Thank you again. Thank you to Teresa Barry for sharing her wisdom today. If you're ready to tap into your intuition or explore powerful spiritual insights, Teresa can guide you on your journey. Please find Teresa's information in our show notes. If you like this episode, please comment, subscribe, and share. And remember, clarity comes when you listen to the voice within. I'm Jackie Denise. Have a great week.